Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today's video is going to be a fun one, as today we're featuring battles from a trainer who's already hit Legend this season, realized that the Open Great League meta might be just a little bit weak to Ice, and is breaking out the Open Great League Galarian Darmanitan. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, Bear Don't Care, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now, before we start, it goes without saying, Galarian Darmanitan, not a Pokemon that you should use if you care about winning or gaining Elo, but against all odds, this trainer was able to go 30-20 with this team, just below Legend Elo. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, Galarian Darmanitan already finds a potential target as it's staring down Credilli. Credilli forced to fire off the Rock Tomb on alignment or it would get outpaced. Galarian Darmanitan now debuffed, opponent gonna switch out, sending in Jellicent, and Jellicent will be answered with Malamar. I imagine this team is opting for the non-Shadow Malamar just to get a little bit of extra bulk, considering the lead Pokemon, Galarian Darmanitan, even resisted hits look super effective with how glassy it is. The opponent went for a Shadow Ball, a bit of a misplay there, as now they're unable to make the Surf before Malamar is able to get to a second Foul Play. Foul Play will pick up the knockout. The opponent still does have a pretty healthy Credilli, but they're going to bring in their final Pokemon. It's Typhlosion, and this is a problem. Typhlosion up energy is a huge core breaker for this team. Typhlosion has a Thunder Punch banked. In comes Galisopod. Galisopod farming up. There's a switch and a catch onto Darmanitan. Does Darmanitan even survive here? The answer is barely. Darmanitan almost got one shot by a neutral Thunder Punch. It's going to fire off the Ice Punch and grab a shield from the opponent. Opponent switches out into Credilli, but this sets up Bear to win the game. As Credilli is going to get knocked out by the X-Scissor, he farmed up the correct amount to X-Scissor the Credilli, Aqua Jet the Typhlosion. That game looked so doomed once Typhlosion got the farm down to the Malamar, but with a terrific catch, it's going to end in a win. But bad news, Shadow Typhlosion's back with a vengeance in the next game. We are going to see a safe switch in a Malamar answered with Morpeko, but Morpeko down energy is not the cleanest response here. Morpeko is going to end up shielding up a bait, and the opponent accidentally overfarms too much. A critical error from the opponent. They're now forced to give up both shields. And if you're Malamar, you're very happy to let this go in exchange for massive farm on the Galarian Darmanitan. Aura Wheel picks up the KO. In comes Darmanitan. Oh, gets the one-turn friggin'. Come on, Niantic. Aura Wheel is going to be shielded. And that move would probably KO 3 Darmanitans. There's going to be yet another Aura Wheel. But Darmanitan in the Zero Shield up energy, it's going to be difficult for anything to come in here. The opponent tries for an aggressive snipe with Typhlosion, but the reaction time, the superpower is reached, and down goes Typhlosion. This is now a heavily debuffed Darmanitan. It's Gastrodon in the back. In comes Galisopod. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Moving into the next match, and Darmanitan's life is not getting easier, staring down a Shadow Lapras. Shadow Lapras obviously double resisting these Ice Fangs, banking the superpower, the switch, and the catch of the Sparkling Aria onto the Galisopod. Galisopod more than happy to absorb that energy. Opponent gonna stay in, rebanking energy. They try and catch an X-Scissor onto the Clodsire, and that's the opponent just getting way too fancy. I know they wanted to rebank the energy, but now they're so far behind, the Clodsire is forced to commit a shield early, and it's still gonna be taking massive super effective damage. So the Aqua Jet is going to land. Opponent will be forced to fire off a move here. Galisopod, it's done its job. It was able to get so much pressure onto that Clodsire, and now in comes Darmanitan. Darmanitan can look for a one shield farm down. Opponent only going to have to go for Sludge Bombs, but if Darmanitan gets this farm down, which it does, this Lapras is going to have nowhere to go. They send in the Lapras. Oh no, trainer. Superpower is going to be shielded. Banking of the next superpower, and in comes Malamar. Malamar going to be no shielding. The opponent never going to be able to Psywave down a Malamar. Malamar farming up in the back is going to be Diggersby, and this game is so over. Malamar already at the back-to-back superpowers. Superpower number 1 is going to do big damage, immediately firing off superpower number 2. While this will not be enough to knock out the Diggersby, it just gets it low enough that Darmanitan will be able to close out this game. No shielding, trusting in the Darmanitan. Fire Punch picks up the KO. Darmanitan will get to commit the shield. The Ice Fang went through, so Darmanitan can just click the superpower, and Lapras is going to get absolutely destroyed. Off a terrible lead, Darmanitan does not care. Down goes Shadow Lapras, and that's game over. Corviknight staring down the Darmanitan in the next game. Now, obviously, you have to be very, very careful of these Iron Heads, as Iron Head would inflict immense damage onto Darmanitan. Darmanitan firing off the Ice Punch. Opponent will end up committing the shield, and Darmanitan obviously will have to respect the Iron Head here. The opponent is running the Legacy Iron Head. These Ice Fangs are adding up so much, though. Can Darmanitan farm down here? It's a risk, but Darmanitan, we've seen what it can do up energy. Darmanitan's going to try for the farm down. Corviknight does not get the move, and that is such a big farm down. Darmanitan, energy for days now. In comes a Swampert, and Swampert going to be met with an Ice Punch. But this is an Ice Punch from a Darmanitan. That's huge damage. Darmanitan does not get the farm down, but a catch of the move from the 1 HP Swampert onto the Galisopod. In the back is Shadow Drapion. Shadow Drapion, a very, very scary Pokemon up a shield, but thanks to this Aqua Jet, the opponent's shield is suddenly gone. And I believe the Darmanitan does have a move loaded, and Darmanitan's not going to be losing CMP to anything. The Aqua Tail, it doesn't KO. The greed backfires for the opponent. The Galisopod, too bulky. That's going to do some pretty big damage. Darmanitan, oh, didn't actually click the move. Did not click the move, instead going to go for Psywaves on the Malamar. Malamar is going to be able to absorb this damage and commit to a farm down here. The Crunch is going to inflict some pretty serious damage. Opponent realizes they can't get the move, so they are going to resign the match. Hopping into the next match, tricky lead as Darmanitan is staring down Gastrodon. Basically, any type neutral lead is going to be tricky for Darmanitan, as Darmanitan just gets absolutely erased by any kind of fast move pressure. 5 Mudslaps already have Darmanitan into the yellow. There's going to be a safe switch into the Malamar. Opponent is going to respond with a Jumpluff, and that is heartbreaking to see if you're leading Darmanitan. You want to see the Jumpluff on the lead, but unfortunately it is in the back on the Malamar. They do have quite a bit of energy on the Jumpluff. The shield from the Malamar, and getting the shield call right is incredibly important. Malamar farming up a ton of energy. Opponent is going to make it to the Aerial Ace. Since this is the non-Shadow Malamar, a Foul Play wouldn't quite have KO'd from there. So that's why Jerbear is looking to overfarm. Jerbear will fire off the Foul Play. Foul Play now just going to be enough to pick up the KO. We will see the Clodsire hit the field, and Malamar may actually be able to get 2 Foul Plays here. It's going to be very, very close. Foul Play number 1 is going to connect, getting to Foul Play number 2. And that's quite nice, because the Malamar can continually chip away at the health of this Clodsire. In comes Darmanitan. There's a snipe from the Gastrodon, and Darmanitan, it's done its job. Body Slam almost KOs, and now in comes Galisopod. Galisopod would love to exit with quite a lot of energy here, as obviously there's energy available on the Clodsire. Galisopod continuing to farm. Gastrodon is going to be firing off another Body Slam. Looks like the farm down may be possible here. It's going to be very close. Galisopod, oh no! They live on 1 HP, and they win the game because of that, because they can just combo. There's the Clodsire. And unfortunately, all that energy is lost. The opponent has to have an incredibly good rank Gastrodon to pull that off. And because of that, they're going to take the win. Moving into the next match, Galarian Darmanitan is going to be staring down a Malamar. Not necessarily what you're hoping to see as Galarian Darmanitan. The opponent is farming up a ton of energy, which is pretty surprising, as they could just go for a Foul Play and threaten to shield off the Darmanitan with how glassy it is. Darmanitan is going to get outpaced in this matchup. We will see Darmanitan shielding up. It is the superpower from the opponent, and the opponent will actually end up throwing on alignment here, giving an entire free Ice Fang to Darmanitan. They stay in. Darmanitan gets a full farm down. In comes a Unova Stunfisk, and how weak are they to ice in the back? Oh my goodness. This Ice Punch is going to do big damage. There's the switch into the Malamar, as Stunfisk will fire off its energy. Stunfisk is going to go for the Mud Bomb, and Malamar not particularly phased by Mud Bomb whatsoever, and it's Jumpluff in the back. And oh my, Darmanitan in prime position here. Malamar is just going to get to continually chip away at this Jumpluff. I think the opponent would have been fine if they just threw Foul Plays at Darmanitan, but I guess they respected the bulk of Darmanitan more than they maybe should have. Jumpluff was able to get a pretty healthy overfarm here, which does mean they should be able to knock out the Darmanitan, but not before the Darmanitan gets a few crucial Ice Fangs. Great switch by Jerbear, and now in comes Galisopod into the Stunfisk. Galisopod will be hit with a Discharge, but Discharge is not a good move. Discharge will not be enough to knock out. Galisopod gets the Aqua Jet. This is going to be good night for the Stunfisk, and all that's left is a 1 HP Jumpluff, and that's getting farmed down as well. We see a familiar lead in the next match, Darmanitan into Credilli. Credilli gonna take big fast move damage. They're gonna pivot into Talonflame, and there's gonna be an immediate response with the Galisopod. As long as you switch in fast enough as the Galisopod, you're always gonna be able to dictate this matchup, because the Talonflame can simply just never catch up. Talonflame is going to shield and fire off a move, but it doesn't matter what they throw. Even if it's the Flame Charge, they're not able to boost their way through Galisopod. Galisopod gonna fire off Aqua Jet number 2. Opponent will end up committing the shield. They undertap here, and as Galisopod, it's really tempted to shield, but considering the lead Pokemon is a Galarian Darmanitan, I think it's the right call to concede switch advantage here, because a Darmanitan without a shield is not going to be around for very long. So instead, gonna let the Galisopod go, send in the Malamar, and pick up the KO with Foul Play. In comes a Blastoise. Opponent now gonna switch into Credilli, and Credilli is gonna be answered with Darmanitan. Darmanitan committing the shield. It's gonna look to overfarm quite a bit here. It is going to be debuffed. Darmanitan can obviously win the cap tie if it wants to, but instead, just gonna look to fire off the Ice Punch and pick up the KO. In comes the Blastoise, these rollouts deleting Darmanitan, but Darmanitan will leave a parting gift of a superpower. That's going to do some pretty significant damage. Blastoise now will get to fire off this Hydro Cannon. Malamar did bank the move, so Malamar is going to get to click the superpower and deny Blastoise's energy, winning charge attack priority. Superpower KOs the Blastoise, and even though Talon was a little scary in the mid game, that game will be a win. Oh my goodness, Darmanitan staring down a Dragonite. Opponent safe switches into an Alolan Sandslash. And this very well could be the Crescent Angels Legend team with Jellicent in the back. Normally that team, the safe switch would be the Jellicent, but in this instance choosing to safe switch the Alolan Sandslash, and Sandslash is unfortunately pretty immediately hard countered by the Galisopod. Galisopod is just a complete wall to this energy, so they can throw Ice Punch after Ice Punch, and Galisopod just does not care. Galisopod looking to exit pretty low on health to not give the Dragonite a lot of farm, but looking to exit with energy. But it's not the Dragonite that gets sent in, it is going to be the Jellicent. So the opponent here going to try and go for a reverse sweep with the Jellicent, but Jellicent is still taking some pretty significant damage here. Jellicent already into the yellow health. In comes Malamar. Malamar shielding up, respecting a potential Shadow Ball. The opponent does actually full send the Shadow Ball. In comes Dragonite, and 4 Ice Fangs delete it. Oh no, traitor. Absolute disaster for the opponent. 4 Ice Fangs KOing is absolutely crazy. In comes Jellicent, and at this point, Malamar is going to be able to close out this game with a win. Surf KOs the Darmanitan, but in comes the Malamar, and Malamar will just get to fully Psywave down. No one move is going to knock out here, so Malamar is going to no shield, and the opponent will resign the match. We move to the next match. Galarian Darmanitan is going to be staring down another Credilli. No jump bluff leads yet, but the Credilli leads have been out, and as long as shields are in play, Darmanitan is going to be favored in those matchups. Darmanitan going to commit an early shield on the Rock Tomb, looking to farm up quite substantially, and now will look to pick up the KO with the Ice Punch. Opponent has a difficult choice here. Will they protect the Credilli? No, they're going to let it go. In comes Talonflame, the aggressive switch into the Galisopod. Galisopod, oh, that's such a risky CMP tie there. Oh my goodness. If the opponent didn't throw the charge attack right when they got the energy, they would have got 20 free energy there, and that could have been catastrophic. But instead, down goes Galisopod. The opponent, at the very least, had to give up a shield at bare minimum, and now in comes Malamar. This is enough for a Brave Bird. Tough call to make if you're the Malamar. Malamar shields, it's the Brave Bird, and now the opponent will look to pivot out into the Drifblim. Drifblim, not a Pokemon I was expecting to see, but a Pokemon that Darmanitan is incredibly happy to see. Ice Punch is going to be shielded. They're looking for a farm down here, but Darmanitan gets the damage registration error. Darmanitan needed the help, and it got it. In comes Talonflame, but Malamar has a move banked. Talonflame nowhere near a move, so the opponent is going to resign the match. Hopping to the final match, and it's going to be a tough lead. Darmanitan staring down Tinkaton. I mean, worst case, it is going to be a play rough, but the opponent doesn't throw right away, so Darmanitan will get to go for a superpower and dip. That's going to do some pretty significant damage. In comes Galisopod. No answer from the opponent. Instead, they're going to stay in and fire off the play rough. Play rough lands, dealing some pretty significant damage. They actually had a good response, so a pretty big misplay by the opponent here, as the opponent could have saved the energy and brought in the jump bluff. How you manage your energy in this game is obviously going to be extremely important, and in this instance, the opponent didn't manage their energy particularly well. But now, what we've all wanted to see, Darmanitan into Jumpluff, and Darmanitan is shredding through its health bar. Darmanitan is going to shield, as even an Aerial Ace would do quite a bit of damage. The opponent is going to bring back in the Tinkaton, and Tinkaton is now going to be pressured with an Ice Punch. They've already lost so much health throughout the course of this battle. The Ice Punch is going to force a shield. Darmanitan, accidentally tabbed out of the app there for a second, is going to be shielding up the player up. What do they have in the back? It's going to be a Lapras. Lapras will have to respect this superpower. It's going to do way too much damage. Superpower does get shielded, and now in comes Malamar. Malamar, of course, triple resisting these Psy-Waves. Psy-Wave just absolutely not threatening whatsoever, and Malamar will strike first with the Foul Play. Foul Play does do quite a bit of damage for the Lapras. They have all the energy they could want, and they're going to use it here. They go for the Sparkling Aria, but they're not able to get the Ice Beam that they would have needed to pick up the knockout. Superpower KOs the Lapras. In comes Tinkaton. Tinkaton is getting Psy-Wave down, and the final game will end with a win. All in all, many thanks to Jerbear for sending in this footage. Galarian Darmanitan is a ridiculous pick for the Open Great League. So the fact that he went positive with it at pretty close to Legend Elo, he mentioned like 28-2900s during one of the days of Go Battle Day, is a testament to how well he played. That's definitely not going to be an easy thing to do with how glassy Galarian Darmanitan is. Speaking of which, I do actually want to look up live while I'm recording this. What is the stat product on this Mon? Galarian Darmanitan is 1480. For reference, Morpeko, which is already considered an absurdly glassy Mon, is at 1580. So it is 100 less stat product than Morpeko and wins Charge Attack priority over Morpeko by 10, which is a truly massive, massive amount. So Galarian Darmanitan, absolutely not a Pokemon you should use if you care about gaining Elo. But I love seeing people in the final days of a season as the season winds down, as we eagerly await the news of what could be a potentially incredibly exciting move update for the upcoming season. People just running fun stuff and having a blast while doing it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy watching content like this, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And an extra special thank you to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.